Welcome into another edition of the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial Group, joined as always to start things off by the head demon himself, Coach Blaine McCorkle. And Coach, we'll jump right into it. Absolutely gutted for you guys after what happened Saturday night down at Nichols, a very close loss in that one that you performed maybe about as consistently from start to finish as you have all season. But when you look back at that, a lot of positives you can take out of that performance.
Yeah, there is. It was a heartbreaking loss for sure, and our players were absolutely gutted, as you said, after the game, as they should be. They fought their tails off for 60 minutes to try to win a game, led most of the game, and just couldn't quite finish it there at the end. But I couldn't be prouder of their effort and their energy throughout the game. I think from start to finish, that's probably the most complete game that we've played since we've been here, even though we didn't get the win and we've won a game in the past. So there's a lot to learn there, and one of the things that I really wanted to share with the team after that game, we're sitting on 3 losses by less than a touchdown right now, 2 of those in conference. So if nothing else, that should show you that we belong in this league, we can play in this league, and we're going to compete at a really high level in this league very, very soon. And I know it's a slow process getting there, but we did it with a lot of really, really young players, as we know, and they had a chance and gave themselves a chance to win the game at the end. 41 seconds away from doing that, and they had to overcome a lot of adversity in the game. They did a great job on 4th down. Defense made stops when they needed to, had some big plays in special teams. So it was a complete team effort, but we didn't find a way to win, and we got to find a way to turn those close games around in a hurry.
I think one thing you touched on, you mentioned the 3 losses by less than a touchdown, all of them on the road, which, they say it's harder to go on the road and win, but you've been right there in those 3 games, and what says something about maybe how this team has grown up from week 1 to now week 12.
Yeah, and sometimes I disagree with that statement that it's tougher to win on the road, especially at this level, because there's a lot of advantages to being on the road. You eat better, you sleep better, you have better meeting time, you're not distracted by things on campus, the focus is a little bit different, and when you go on the road, it's all about us. It's all about the team. There's not as many distractions. That's why you see a lot of teams, especially at the higher level, everybody stays at a hotel on Friday night, even for their home games. At our level, a lot of teams do that. They can afford it and are starting to do that, and there's a lot of value in that if you can do it. But we have played well on the road, and so I think there's a lot of things you can learn from that as well. But it does show some maturity of a young team to be able to create that environment 3 times this year. Like I said, we just got to find a way to flip it.
I will say this, going down to that last, one of the late drives there, Jamarian Bonner has the interception that appeared to put you in position to seal it. When the flag comes out and you hear offsetting penalties, how do you try to flip the mindset to go back to what you just did?
Well, you don't have a choice. You have to play the next play. One thing that I've shared with our team here a lot lately, Indiana and Kirk Cignetti are kind of a hot team right now, and you listen to some of the things that he says, and he's exactly right when he says you can't be affected by success, you can't be affected by failure, you can never be too high, never be too low. You just have to play the next play, because once that play's over, once they've made the call, right or wrong, whether you agree or not, you have to play the next play, so you have to rebound. But that play, it's really a shame that it did get called back, because if you go back and watch the film, the best part of that play is the sideline. Our sideline absolutely exploded when he intercepted that ball, and he's running down the sideline to give us a chance to separate the game. We had the lead at the time, but that was going to really separate it and probably put the game away. And I've never seen our sideline with that much electricity in a moment, and there's value in that. When you're talking about week 11, when you're 1-9, and your kids are fighting that hard to find a win, really speaks to the character of our team. But to your question and the point, in the moment, you just have to play the next play, and that comes with maturity and things like that. That's why once the play was over, they replayed the 4th and 3. We took a timeout just to let everybody settle down, catch their breath, get a shot of water, because that next 4th down was crucial, probably the biggest play in the game once it's all said and done.
You mentioned Kurt Cignetti, and I'd love to talk to you more about that because he was at Elon, I think, for a little bit. Did you ever cross paths playing against him at any point in your career?
I don't think so. He may have been at James Madison, maybe my year at Delaware or something like that. I don't know what the math is, but not when he was at Elon for sure. But he's had a great career. He's been a lot of places, kind of rolled the dice. He's an SEC assistant, goes to be a Division II head coach to kind of gamble on himself. I kind of get that, kind of follow a similar path to a degree, leaving a really good, comfortable FCS program to go to Division III school to kind of bet on myself. And I'm a fan of his and the way he does things. But that league, that whole East Coast CAA, it's changed a little bit now, but when it was James Madison, Richmond, William and Mary, Elon, Villanova, I mean, that's some really, really good football and some great coaches in that league. So not surprised at all by the success he's had.
As we turn the page and go to the home finale Thursday night, it's already here. Probably feels like it went by just like that for you this year. But when you look at Stephen F. Austin, and before we get to them, for your team, we've talked about it before. We've seen glimpses. We've seen potential. Now is it about stacking that same kind of execution from one week to the next?
Yeah, it is. And yeah, I think Coach Smelser is going to be on the show here in a minute. It's something that he and I have talked about a little bit is we've had those moments, but the consistency piece, we haven't backed up two good performances back to back. Well, this is our last chance to do that. It's the last game of the year. So kind of like we were talking about, you have to put the past to bed and move forward in a hurry. It's a Thursday night game after being on the road Saturday. So, Sunday, yesterday we came in, I had a 3-minute recap of the Nichols game, and it was straight on to Stephen F. Austin because you don't have time to wallow in your own self-pity and feeling bad about how close we were. You got to go on to the next one because Stephen F. Austin don't care. They're showing up here to play Thursday night and working on a higher seed in the playoffs and all those things. They've already wrapped up a conference championship. They've already got their automatic bid. So now they're playing really for seeding and things like that. So they'll show up ready to play, so we better do the same.
And we know one thing, them being undefeated in conference, being what they are, they can finish an unbeaten slate, but they're going to come in with a very high-powered offense. They're going to come in with maybe, I know you're a big fan of Southeastern, you're a big fan of what they've done, but arguably, by what they've done result-wise, the best team in the conference.
Oh, no question. Yeah, they're big, they're physical, they're fast. I mean, you look at all 22 starters on both sides of the ball, it's hard to find a hole in there. They are big, they are old, they are physical. From the quarterback to the O-line, receivers, running backs, they're a good-looking football team. And on the defensive side, their defensive line is what you want it to look like. Those are some big, strong, good-looking bodies. They got linebackers that can run and hit, and a great secondary. I think they got one guy's invited to the Shrine Bowl and some guys back there with some great stats. So they're a good football team, and with still season to play, they've wrapped it up for a reason. Because they are all that. And after this week, I'll be pulling for them because they're in our conference. You always want to pull for your conference, and I hope they make a deep run. That's good for all of us.
And as you head into this final home game, just a message for the fans for year two from Blaine McCorkle?
Show up and support them Thursday night. You got one more shot to see this team. We're going to send 12 seniors out of here Thursday night, and we want to send them out well and show up and give those guys some love and some appreciation. And the thing I would say to people is, records are what they are. It's not what we want to be. We are, even though we got one win, we came into this season with the longest losing streak in the country. We have a win. We're going to try to get 2 this week, do everything we can to get 2. But at the end of the day, this is a better football team than we had last year, and success is defined as improvement. And I was, I like playing with the numbers and tweaking it a little bit and seeing what things look like to really see where we've improved. And through 9 FCS games this year, compared to 9 FCS games last year, we're actually 60 points ahead of where we were last year in terms of closing the gap. And we're doing that with a much younger team than we had last year. Last year, we were an older team. A lot of those guys graduated or quit. So we're doing it with a lot younger players, and they're putting out a better product. So the future is good.
Well, Coach, I know you appreciate the fans that have come out and will come out Thursday night, and we certainly appreciate the time you've taken this year on the Demon Huddle. When we come back on said Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial Group, we'll be joined by Northwestern State Special Teams Coordinator Tyson Walkenheim.
Super One Foods is proud to be named the official grocery store of the Northwestern State University Demons. No matter where you gather to watch the game, we've got everything you need at Super One Foods, all at super low prices. Plus, you can order online and enjoy same-day pickup with our convenient curbside service. Talk about a game changer. Score big when you shop at Super One Foods, your official NSU Demons grocery store.
Welcome back into the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial Group. A little different week this week, so a little different set of guests. Joined now for the first time making his Huddle debut, Northwestern State Special Teams Coordinator Tyson Walkenheim. So, Coach, welcome to the show, and we'll just start right away. You come in first year as a Special Teams Coordinator here. Let's just talk about the assimilation process, how easy it was, and how quickly you were able to fit in with the staff.
Yeah, so this was actually my second time with Coach McCorkle. I was with him for a year at Belhaven. And so when I got here, it was kind of easy transition, getting in, getting to know the guys, and his staffs are always. He has a really good job, kind of building staff camaraderie and making sure that all of us are going to mesh well together. So that was actually really easy. and then getting in and just being a special teams coordinator and just kind of getting the chance to just install the special teams and getting all that done and getting to meet the team and finding out who the guys are that are going to be the ones that I'm going to count on and who the guys that we can trust in all those situations. So for me, it was fairly simple.
Everyone says there's 3 phases of the game, and unfortunately it seems like a lot of times the special teams one can be the invisible one until something goes bad. So how challenging is that from a coaching standpoint to where you will get congratulated for the good stuff, but unfortunately a lot of times the headlines end up on the other side?
Yeah. It is challenging. I talk to especially the kickers all the time. Like, you got to be some of the toughest dudes on the field mentally, when I played tight end, coach tight ends, you might make a mistake, but hey, it's first down. You get to go back on second down and go fix that mistake. Whereas you miss a field goal, you hit a bad punt, you got to sit there and wait, and you might not get an opportunity to make it right. Mentally that's hard. And you are kind of invisible. That's what you kind of want to be, especially your long snappers and your holders. You don't want your name called out very much. But we talk to these guys all the time. Like, we have chances to make game-changing plays, and you go out there, go ahead and make yourself visible. So go make those plays.
Well, week 1 there was certainly a game-changing play that Ty Moore ended up making. We'll leave the dance alone. We talked about that in week 1. We won't bring that back up. He did get to dance a little bit more this weekend. We'll maybe talk to Coach Smelzer about the dancing. But you guys have made those plays, and I think one of the interesting thing is for your unit, just like everybody else, you've kind of had to mix and match this year because of injuries, and yet you found guys who have made plays. It was Zay Davis to start the year. Antonio Hall's had some big returns, and then this past weekend, Amaz Eugene had a field flipping return. That's got to be, 1, a good feeling for you, and then 2, kind of a stamp of approval from the scheme or however those guys, the 8 or 9 guys in front of those guys, are blocking.
Yeah, and so the again, invisible. The blockers up front are the ones that don't get a lot of the credit. And so that game, I was coaching mostly those guys, and your returners were getting fearless. And I kind of joked with Amaz, that first big hit on the first return, I think it was kind of good for him. I think that kind of helped them be a little bit more fearless, because those guys, when you're on the return, you just got to hit it and go and trust the blockers in front of you, because that's a high impact, high speed play. But yeah, with the injuries, we're on our 6th punt returner, and I haven't had to fire a single one of them. And just having a couple of returners back there just going through, and not only were the returners, but the guys up front blocking, is you're just kind of trying to mix and match and doing my best to make it easy on those guys to understand the scheme, to understand, hey, here's what the leverage you need, and just putting guys in the right place, trying to find that success. So
you mentioned that 6 punt returners. Now the good thing is, I think for the most part, you'd have to list them out, all of them, but I think most of them could return next year. So you would actually have a pretty tested group of those guys.
Yeah, all of them return. So it'll be fun to see what happens in spring ball and see who comes out as the top guy. And got a lot of guys with a lot of talent back there, but they all had different skill sets, and so just trying to find the right guy to be back there.
Same thing with the kick returners?
Yeah, same thing. Just again, in spring, got a lot of guys that we trust to be back there, and a lot of guys that have a chance to hit big explosive plays and flip the field. For special teams, it's all about creating field position, because the closer to the end zone you start, the more points you're going to score. So for us, it's all about flipping the field in the return game.
I think guys that have people that grow up and watch football, we talk about invisible, but there are also those certain special teamers, Steve Tasker, Matthew Slater from the Patriots. I'm old enough to remember Jackie Slater. Yeah. Kind of goes to how old I am. I think you've kind of got one of those in Landry Huddleston. I know his role changed on defense, but he had a huge hit and forced fumble, forced muff Saturday at Nichols that put you in position to score. He looks like he's tailor-made to play special teams.
Yeah, I talk to these guys again. It's the most important thing to have on special teams is effort and care. Nobody cares more than Landry. Nobody has more effort than that guy. He's going to go out there and he's going to put everything he's got into that play. And so he's a guy that you don't necessarily look at all his measurables and you say, hey, that's the guy who's going to make plays. But when you turn on the tape, like, he's the first one down on kickoff. He's the first one down on punt. He's doing a really good job blocking on our kickoff returns. And so, he's a special player, and he's like you said, he's designed to be on special teams with just his heart and is just the way he attacks the game and the way he goes about his business.
Could you bottle what he has?
If I could, I'd have a really, really good business model right there, and I'd go give it to the rest of the other guys, and we'd have the best special teams in the country.
Does it also help that it's a guy that he came with coach from Belhaven? I think you probably had him at Belhaven for the year.
Yeah.
I think y'all crossed over a little bit. But not only that, but he's a senior and a veteran guy that's going down there and putting everything he has into those 6-7 plays a game. That's got to be an easy thing to hold up and say to the younger guys who are on there that sometimes I think we've kind of talked about the life of a special teamer on this little bit here, but sometimes that kind of gets relegated to almost an afterthought for some people, for maybe the casual fan more than anybody. But it helps to have Landry Huddleston say, look, this guy's making plays as a senior. You've got to take your role and run with it.
Yeah. And again, when you install special teams in spring and the first couple of days in fall camp, everywhere I've been, and so I brought this with me, is you put up guys in the NFL, and you sit there and you say, hey, who's this guy? And no one knows who it is. And you say, well, this guy made $1.2 million, and he didn't take a single snap on offense or defense. So, I mean, the special teams is important at every level. Like I said earlier, is like if you flip the field position, the closer you start, the more points you're going to score. You just build that the care, and you build that importance of special teams. And when guys fully understand that, you get a little bit more effort, you get a little more out of them as it goes. And I think we've seen that, especially as it goes later into the season, and especially after last game. Like, we gave ourselves really good field position on a couple of those plays, and those drives turned into points. So.
Farther away, you want the offense to start on the other side, closer for years. Well, Coach, you made it through your first Demon Huddle appearance, so we thank you for coming in. And when we return on the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial Group, we'll be joined by Northwestern State Director of Strength and Conditioning, Jason Smelzer.
Whether it's in the trailer, behind the camera, or on the air, NSU has a place for you. Learn the ins and outs of an ESPN broadcast while getting a full-fledged education in sports media or broadcast journalism. Northwestern State University. New media, journalism, and communication arts. Learn more at nsula.edu/new media.
Welcome back into the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial Group, joined now by Northwestern State Director of Strength and Conditioning, Jason Smelzer. And Coach, as a former football coach yourself, I guess you still get to stay in it in this realm, strength and conditioning plays such a huge role. And I know one of the things when Coach McCorkle came in almost 2 years ago now, it seemed like a very seamless transition for you two. How were you guys able to strike such a chord of friendship and seamless thinking in that amount of time?
Well, it was easy in the fact that Coach McCorkle has, at one point in his career, been a strength coach too as well. So he has some knowledge, and his best friend is a well-known strength coach, a world record-setting bench press guy. So that kind of struck some conversations with us, and then when you sit down and you talk to Coach about his vision. And then how we're going to get to where we're going to go, it aligns with how I feel about how to build a program. As a former football coach, there are certain things that you look at and you say, these are staples of my program if I were to be a head football coach one day, and I was. And then you listen to a man that has the same staples, fundamentals, and beliefs and core ideas that you do. So it just seemed like, I think both of us were in a way ordained to be here at the same time. So it's been a great relationship. We're looking forward to continuing to win together.
The growth in this team has not just been X's and O's. It's not just been yards and statistics like that. Obviously, my part of the world, that is where we judge it. Yours is judged a lot different way, and you can tell a lot of times for a strength conditioning coach, when you can go from August of 2024 to August of 2025 and you see a physical difference in that team that is noticeable for everybody, that's got to feel like a personal pat on the back for you guys.
Well, I think the pat on the back is always the players' work that they put in and getting them to do, believe in themselves, and then to do what they need to do to become the best player that they can become. Obviously, we have to push them to those limits, but everything is measurable in our program. We're going to turn over every rock to find ways to train our athletes in a better way, recovery protocol, trying to get our players to recover faster from games, lives, competitions, and even practices. And then we've got the metrics to prove that. We got the metrics to work on some of those areas that we need some growth in. We got a new facility coming here real soon. We're looking forward to moving into that. That'll be great for all sports, but definitely needed on the football side of things. Help us tailor workouts to individual position groups a little bit better. So, yeah, it's great to see constant continual improvement from our players from the time that I've been here till now. But and we've seen the best that the conference has to offer from a competition standpoint. And if you've seen the growth that we have from the metrics that we have from the time that we've been here, we're continuing to grow. A little bit and constant continual improvement on a weekly basis, daily basis, and a yearly basis. So I feel like if other teams stay stagnant, they're going to see real quick a serious change in this program in the next couple months, next year, and the years after that, because we will not stay stagnant.
The facility you mentioned was the David and Sherry Morgan Health Performance Center that's going up, and it's going to happen, hopefully be opened, maybe not right after Christmas, but early next year. Are you like a kid in Christmas? Are you kind of getting antsy? You getting ready? I know you're ready to be in there, but as the days draw closer, do you get a little bit more and more anxious? Are you really feeling like you're ready to get in there?
Well, when we start programming for, January in the spring, that's when you kind of become anxious about it. Up until this point, just a couple weeks ago, we still had the bid process out and some of the equipment that we have going in there and the rack companies that we're going to use and so on and so forth. Since that is complete, now I can kind of sit back and relax and enjoy the rest of the process, because what I want is going in there. What we need is going in there for every sport. And then now you can kind of sit back and it looks like February, early February is when the move-in date will happen. And so it would be a seamless transition. One workout, we may be in the area that we're in, and then the very next morning, we may be in a brand new facility. So we're super excited about that. I know the kids are super excited about it. And we just got to make sure that we put forth the work. It's not just necessarily the facilities, it's the people conducting the workouts and the athletes producing the intensity that we need to get out of these workouts.
Well, we're talking with you. We talked with Special Teams Coordinator Tyson Wackenheim earlier today. It's kind of a little different show for us, a little different week for everybody involved. But I think one thing I want to give you a chance to do is probably shout out your staff. We kind of, strength conditioning is kind of behind the scenes in a sense, kind of like special teams is maybe a little bit behind the scenes in some respects, but sort of unsung heroes on both sides.
Yeah, and we're going to start with David Oberding, working with men's and women's basketball. He's the director of Olympic sports. We work hand in hand together. He does a lot of the scheduling for the Olympic sports, and that's a hard job. He listens to the complaints, and then he brings the complaints to me, and then we just make decisions based on that if there are complaints. But does a phenomenal job with men's and women's basketball. And then he also does some development for our graduate assistants. So we don't just turn our graduate assistants loose with sports that we've given them. We actually do some program analysis and some work with them on the proper programming methods to use for those sports. And David does a great job of that. And then Ian Rogers is a fairly new hire for us, graduate assistant that we've elevated to the part-time role. He works with football and women's soccer. He just won a conference championship with women's soccer, helping lead the way with them, and has done a great job of in-season work with our soccer program and expanding that where that hasn't necessarily been a point of emphasis in the past. And I think it really showed up this year in the health of our soccer team. Winning the conference championship and then making it deep into the postseason too as well. And then you got Mikkel Majors, who's moving on. He's graduating. Mikkel's done a great job with softball and volleyball. He's also the juice box at the football program. Does a great job at practice and on the sidelines of the game. And we're gonna miss him, but he's gonna have a great career in strength conditioning. And then Zach Baer, who's a brand new guy that's come along. This is his first semester with us. And works with tennis and football. We're going to give him some extra responsibilities coming up in the spring. But Zach came from Maryland and specifically worked with the sports science department at Maryland. And I've never had a GA come in with as many ideas that we have used Over the last few years, they're going to be staples in our program from here on out, from graphics design for our strength program to GPS metrics that we use on a daily basis that we feel like can tell us if the athletes have a high level of readiness or if we need some recovery protocols for those athletes. And those are some areas that we need to improve on too, not to get off on that, but recovery protocols and maybe sleep monitoring and then load management in some areas. So those are some things that we're looking at into the off season to get better at as a strength department.
Well, one thing you don't do is sleep very much. I know you're kind of rolling and going. We're about to wrap up football season, but that doesn't mean your work ends by any stretch.
No.
And not for your staff or really anyone in this athletic department. But Coach, I want to thank you for taking your time to come here and join us on the Demon Huddle presented by Cross Financial. We'll see you next season.